Hey, deserving listeners, Ultimatum Queer Love, Season 2, Netflix. Let's watch.
A little bit of shit to get over. It's a lot of shit on both sides. So it's just kind of scary to wonder what the damage will do to us in a marriage.
I'm in love with Haley.
Oh, I forgot about that moment. So that whole previous statement and debate, or me trying to remember what Megan exactly said about being in love or love. Well, she told Dana she had every reason to downplay whatever sort of love she felt towards Haley, right? Because at this point, presumably, Megan wanted actually to reconcile with Dana. So she tells Dana, I'm in love, not was in love. I'm currently in love with Haley. Now, maybe Megan has a different definition of that, but then a couple weeks later, she's talking with Haley and saying, I never said I loved you. I never said I was in love with you. So I don't think Megan is lying. I think she's forgetting. I think it's hard for her to accept that she did feel that way, or the implications of that being true is hard to deal with or something. Or they edited out something where Megan said, oh yeah, I did say that, but, and then they, I don't know, who knows, but I'm watching, they're doing a flashback as they're building up to the proposal at the end here, and I've totally forgot that she did that, so that puts all that to rest. Megan says, I am right now in your presence in love with Haley. Now, you know, I think it's pretty clear that Megan was at the very least confused about that, because later she didn't want to be with Haley, or didn't want to be with her enough to try to fight for it or something. So, you know, people change their mind, but I forgot about that exact wording towards to Dana.
We have both admitted having feelings for one another.
There's something there. We have a connection. But I don't have the capacity to open my heart to somebody else when I am in love with somebody else.
Okay, so we're hearing a definitive statement from Dana. I think she has said that on camera, that exact thing or something like that, before to Mel, but they edited it out. There were a number of times where it felt like she was about to say something like that, and there was a quick edit. I can't know that, but I think that to be true. I don't know. Or Dana finally figured it out or something, but I doubt it, because the key moment that I am focusing on is that at the peak of Mel and Dana's closeness and connection was during their trial marriage, right? And they were totally connecting, and they were getting together, and they were in their cocoon, and their previous partner wasn't around, and Mel was really falling for Dana, and they're talking kind of about the future and everything. And yet in that moment, when Mel expressed that she was falling in love with Dana, Dana said something to the effect of, I need to talk to Megan, in terms of what they showed us in the edit. We know that Mel was disappointed that she didn't get what she wanted from Dana. I'm phrasing it funny, but we know that Mel walked away feeling like, oh, that sucked. And I'm guessing that Dana said something like more definitive, that I'm in love with Megan. So we're hearing that now, and I am satisfied because it seemed that way, whether it was said in front of the camera or not, and I suspect it actually was. Which, you know, they're going to want to create some level of drama and suspense, which is fine.
I'm gonna put my emotions aside for the moment, and I'm just gonna take this as this could be the last time we talk to each other.
Now, I'll also say that when they had the cocktail party, Dana, I think, was giving mixed signals for sure, which I've already been over. But so I'm not saying that I think that in reality, Dana was very clear to Mel the entire time, but I think she was clearer than we might have seen in the edit.
You don't want a friendship with me.
No.
What made you come to that?
I'm not saying that to hurt you.
I don't think you're trying to hurt me, but I just think you're a liar.
Okay.
Like, you're literally a liar.
Why? Why call Mel a liar? And what's she basing it on? I think what Dana is so we can look at emotions not only just as an interesting exercise, thought exercise, but also as a way of expanding our options that are available to us when we're conceptualizing not only others but ourselves, to put ourselves in other people's shoes. I think that's a main reason why people watch reality TV, is to put ourselves in other people's shoes in a safe way that we're not actually involved and try things on for size, you know? Anyway, so you could argue all art is like that. But anyway, it's funny to call reality TV art, but, you know, in the sense of cultural entertainment and stories. Anyway, so for Dana, I think, so she's hearing from Mel this message that Mel doesn't necessarily want to be friends. And I think Dana feels bad, which is good. Not that she should beat herself up, but she has compassion. She cares about Mel, and she knows that she's the one that's ultimately rejecting Mel. And I didn't show this, but Mel wrote a really long, beautiful letter to Dana, and Dana was appreciating that. So Dana feels bad. And I think given Dana's history, the enmeshment, something going on, that Dana wants to stop that. She doesn't want to feel bad about herself. She doesn't want to feel guilty. And instead of in a differentiated way sitting with that, because that's what you have to do because it is kind of a breakup-ish, you know, that you just have to sit with that feeling of, I am hurting somebody, but I know that I'm not doing anything wrong, and it's better that I tell them. And I just have to be in that position. I'm going to scramble to get out from underneath that, but that is what's happening right now, and that doesn't make me a bad person. These things happen when there's love involved. I didn't lead Mel on. I didn't lie, and I've already thought about that. I've checked in with myself, and I hurt someone, and that sucks. But I don't have to, even if I'm being accused, and Mel isn't. Mel has never, from my memory, accused Dana of doing anything, you know? So Dana is trying to get out from underneath that, and so she, I think, wants to, as people will in the Dana shoes, want friendship, because that is a sign that the Danas of the world aren't horrible people, even though there's nothing indicating that, you know what I mean? And so it can be some kind of a validation and a comfort, and maybe some retention of a connection, you know, or an option, you know, who knows. But Dana, instead of just differentiatedly having awareness of that, speaking from that place, she attacks. And I mean, attack's a strong word, but bulldozes, you know, and bulldoze is a strong word too. But anyway, and Dana also will define the other person. That's what we've seen in this. It's kind of interesting that I'm trying to remember the last time we saw, I know that this has happened before. Actually, we saw it on Love is Blind with Matthew when he would talk to AD in the pods, and he was like, I know that you want to be with me. Remember that whole thing? That's creepy talk, and, you know, not necessarily an indication of severe pathology, but it should be clearly identified. And I want to educate y'all. Maybe you don't need that, but we can all use a refresher. But the signs of that kind of talk, of defining for other people. Now, it can be abusive and coercive and horrible, but it could also be more subtle and not within an abusive relationship. To some extent, we all kind of do this in a pinch when we're desperate. Dana just does it a lot. And I think Mel has the ability to withstand it. I don't think Megan does, actually, as evidenced by when Megan wanted out of the show and in Dana's pressuring, she used that kind of language. And because Megan, according to herself, is a super people pleaser and a denial of the self and maybe a chameleon in love, she is an easy target for that. Might even seek someone that defines her because she doesn't know who she is yet, that kind of thing. Anyway, so I'll rewind that, but just listen to this language.
No.
What made you come to that?
I'm not saying that to hurt you.
I don't think you're trying to hurt me, but I just think you're a liar.
Okay.
Like, you're literally a liar.
That wasn't the decision I had coming in here, no.
Yeah, you're a liar. It's pressure. It puts the person in Mel's position into a place of defensiveness. Now, if you have a hard time standing on your own 2 feet, one, you'll get kind of wrapped up in that accusation. I'm not a liar. And then now you are in the position of having to prove yourself to the other person that you're not a liar. There can be gaslighting elements to this over time. It can be confusing unless you have differentiation and maturity and healing and awareness and a stable sense of yourself, which I think Mel actually, to some extent, has enough anyway. At least her vulnerabilities are not the sort of vulnerabilities that Megan has. I don't think Mel is vulnerable to those kinds of bulldozing. I think she has other vulnerabilities because of her past, as she's talked about. But for Dana, it pushes people in that position. The best response is to check in with yourself and say, I don't have to defend myself. I don't, maybe I am not telling the full story, right? I think Mel might actually not be lying, but might not be telling the full story. I think Mel actually does want to be friends. There's a part of her that probably does want to be friends with Dana. And I think Dana might actually be, in a weird way, saying that, right? Maybe to reassure herself, I don't know. But it's all that enmeshment thing. But for Mel, I think she knows enough about herself to say, okay, fine, maybe there's a part of me that wants to be friends, but overall, I don't want to because it'd be too hard for me, or it's too confusing, or I've seen some things with you that are a little concerning, and so I think it's just best that we're not friends moving forward.
What made you come to that?
I'm not saying that to hurt you.
I don't think you're trying to hurt me, but I just think you're a liar.
Okay.
Like, you're literally a liar.
That wasn't the decision I had coming in here, no. By hearing what you have to say and
What was the
basically
decision you had
saying that,
coming in here? What was your
things
proposition?
meant more for me than they did for you, it's like, why would I?
Is that what I just said? Because I don't think that came out of my mouth.
That's what I'm taking.
Yeah, Mel is accurate. That and Dana's arguing with it. This is similar to the cocktail party. It's like Dana almost had it. Dana was being honest and differentiated and was saying, yeah, I'm just in love. It is interesting that Dana framed it as I don't have the capacity to be in love with you when I'm in love with someone else. I'm saying that's interesting because Dana could just say, I'm just not in love with you. So it's kind of a triangulation in a sense, but it also makes total sense. And it's also maybe what anyone would say in that situation in a healthy way. Anyway, so she said that, which was differentiated. It is in the face of disappointing Mel. It's potentially going to cause Mel not to like her because sometimes that happens. And so Dana was being healthy in that way. And then, I mean, it's not necessarily inherently healthy that she rejects Mel, but you get what I'm saying. That if that's how she feels, then she states it and doesn't make apologies and says so with care for the most part. Then when Mel says, yeah, I don't think this is, well, it's interesting because Mel was like, okay, what I'm about to say, I'm going to say because I don't know if we're ever going to talk again. And then that caused Dana to take a tangent, which is like, wait, so we're not going to be friends. And, da, da, da. And so I think there's a chance that Dana's enmeshment is being triggered here, a desperation of we must enmesh or we must blow up. And this is one of the things about enmeshment that's often a tragic result, is that the worry for enmeshed, it's always out of anxiety. And the anxiety is that they'll explode. You know, if there's any distance, then they'll explode and they'll never see each other again, because that's what history has taught us. So we must constantly be each other. We must be the same. We are one, right? All that linguistic choice that Dana was making. And what will happen is, as there is some distance, because, there's a chance that they could be friendly or maybe friends down the road, or at the very least have positive thoughts about each other as they never talk to each other again. Because that's the way it was. If they had just stopped the conversation there at that certain point, I think that's what would have happened. But because enmeshment and that anxiety is there, there's this constant need to sort of come back to enmeshment, even when they don't want it themselves. Dana doesn't want to be with Mel. She wants to be with Megan. But that compulsion and that anxiety, and then Mel starts to go, wait, and then it does explode. And it does become a self-perpetuating nightmare for the enmeshed individual. She's trying to do this. It does happen. The reason why this is happening of like, we must enmesh, is because I'm worried things are going to explode and we're never going to see each other again. And the enmeshed individual will kind of make that happen, if that makes sense. Anyway, so let's rewind that, because I think there's a lot of detail happening here.
By hearing what you have to say and
What was the
basically
decision you
saying
had
that
coming in here? What was your
things
proposition?
meant more for me than they did for you, it's like, why would I?
Is that what I just said? Because I don't
that's
think
what
that
I'm
came out of my
taking-
mouth.
That's what I'm taking it as.
No. I'm saying that there's a lot more for me that I need to unpack there, because I don't think I processed any of it.
Yeah, maybe I'm misinterpreting, but I think Dana is refuting the notion that Mel just said, which is, and this actually flies in the face of my assumption earlier that Dana has been clear at times and they just edited it out, because it almost seems like Mel, for the first time, is hearing, oh, you don't share your feelings for me. Now, that was basically communicated on camera at the end of the trial marriage, but maybe Mel was just still wondering based on some of the things that Dana said, like at the cocktail party. Anyway, so Mel is saying, well, I don't see any reason to be friends if what I'm hearing is I have feelings for you and you're in love with Megan. So yeah, right? And then Dana's like, no, that's not what I'm saying. I just need time to process it. Like, now maybe that's true, but if it is, Dana, you are being extremely wishy-washy, or you're not clear. And she did this at the cocktail party too. And I think it's because something gets triggered in her. She comes across as very confident, right? But her behavior exhibits a desperation, a fear. And it just because she comes across as confident and articulate, well-spoken, sure of herself, the sort of words that she used, the stance that she has, that does not necessarily mean that she is like not terrified.
So don't do that. What was your proposition coming into this? What was your plan?
I just wanted to talk about where we were going today.
Okay. Yeah. Belle is saying, I was wondering if you and I were going to be together. You had your chance with Megan, and now you can make a choice, because the format of the show allows you to now choose whatever road, because you had to choose Megan, because that's the format of the show. And I'm just wondering, and I'm pretty sure Dana is going to say, I want to be with Megan.
The whole morning I've been so nervous. I'm feeling like I'm gonna throw up. I wanted to see you before I saw her, because I'm scared of making the wrong decision.
Yeah, it sounds like, well, I mean, at least on the surface, that Mel is saying, I'd rather be with you, Dana, but if you don't want me, then I'm going to be with Marie, which is kind of surprising, because I would have thought Mel wouldn't. If Dana was going to say no, then I thought Mel would not want to be with anyone, and or Marie wouldn't want to be with Mel.
I'm nervous.
Who are you doing it for?
For her, because it's what she wants.
So Dana asked, good question, caring question, I think. Who are you proposing for? If you're planning on proposing to Marie, who are you doing it for? And then Mel says, I'm doing it for her, which I'm guessing either Mel is now reckoning with or knew all along that that's not a reason to propose, and Marie wouldn't want her to propose if that was why.
Dana. Will you marry me?
Yes.
Okay, interesting. Huh. Yeah. After they got back together after the trial marriage, it seemed like this was a possibility. Before that, I would never have thought. During the trial marriage, all the fighting over the phone and then the falling in love and the feelings they were having, particularly Megan with Haley, I never would have thought that this was going to happen. But here we are, the road of love is ever winding and interesting.
And to just know that at the end of it, it's you and me, no matter what that looks like. This is Marie Angeline. Stop.
Okay, interesting. So Mel is proposing, and I don't know if I showed it, but she just got done talking about how she likely will be unsure later. She's sure now about marrying Marie, but she'll be unsure tomorrow. And also, Marie, you might have uncertainty in the future. And yeah, that could work. It's not a great sign, especially given that it seemed in the edit, it wasn't clear, but it seemed to me that just a little earlier, 15 minutes earlier or something, at least in the edit, Mel was open to being with Dana. Now, that doesn't eliminate the possibility that you can love, two people and say, well, either one. But at the very least would be a reason to give it some time. Now, maybe they off camera agreed, we'll give the engagement some time, but let's give it a shot and let's start ironing out some of those issues before we get married or something. I don't know, but I'm a little surprised, and it looks like Marie's going to say yes.
Will you marry me? Today, every day, tomorrow, just answer quick because I'm going to throw myself in that lake.
Now, another angle to this that they talked about, for the most part, was that it's possible that they always wanted to get married and were always ready, and both of them, and they were always compatible. But the one barrier was that Mel, given her early childhood, or not early, just throughout her childhood, according to her, just terrible examples, not just like divorce, but like seemingly we've only heard the topic sentence of just how bad it was, that she was just unsure and was worried that that would happen to her, right? And so it's possible that you strip away all of that trauma, and at the core of it, Mel loves Marie and wants to spend the rest of her life with her. And so maybe that will carry the day. I don't know.
Very soon.
Yes, please.
Okay, yeah, I figured. So, all right, well, that is interesting. We have 5 engagements and 1 not engagement, Ashley and Marita. So everyone got engaged in the end to their original partner. Now, I guess there's a reunion, right, that's coming up, so we'll find out updates. Let me make some predictions. Might any of them have actually gotten married? I could see it. I could see the intensity of the show accelerating things quite a bit, right? So Brittany and AJ, I wouldn't put a lot of money on any of it because we didn't spend a lot of time with the actual couples. We spent a lot of time with the trial marriages, so it's hard to say. But Brittany and AJ, yeah, I'd put a little bit of money that they got married and they're still together. Haley and Pilar, same. Kyle and Bridget, same. Dana and Megan, I would know. What would I guess would happen? At the very least, that after this day, that Dana and Megan either chose to stay engaged and not get married, or had various ups and downs that gave them more concern, or broke up. Who knows? That's really hard to predict. I could also see them getting married. It's not impossible for me to imagine. And I could even see them doing well. If they did have a stable relationship, I could see how, with, ups and downs and a little bit of conflict, I could see them managing. And then with these two, I think a similar prediction to Dana and Megan. I could see Mel, after getting engaged, starting to waver again within engagement to actually get married, you know? And then Ashley and Marita, I would predict that, I don't know, I could see a lot of things. I could see Marita finally just pulling the plug. I could also see them to this day still in that limbo, and still working on it, maybe having gone to therapy. I could see a number of them. I don't remember any talk of therapy, but I wouldn't be surprised if a number of them have been in therapy and are in therapy, because it's more and more common, right? So maybe Ashley did some work and is finding her way to her emotion and ability to express love. I don't know. So yeah, those are my predictions. I'm usually wrong about at least half. Sometimes I like that because it means there's still some spicy surprises left ahead. All right, well, that does it for that episode. Tune in next time when I continue watching. And everyone out there, please take care of yourself, because you deserve it. You really, really do.